Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about those terrible demonstrations gone wrong that are plaguing this country in the United States of America. What started in Minneapolis has fanned out and spread across the globe onto other countries even. But today we're talking about another American city that has seen some very dramatic events. Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, recently had an attack and fires were started at a very famous church there that happens to be across the street from the White House. The White House is, of course, the center and the leading location for the President of the United States, and this was definitely related to that. This church called St. John's had been visited by presidents for many, many generations. It's very historical. So the fact that protesters would deface this and disgrace this national monument is definitely messed up. It shows how anti-American they truly are. In response to that, President Trump has finally responded, despite the press and the liberals in the mainstream trying to bash him for it. They've been going after Trump for supporting this church, even walking over there after a very strong law and order speech, which he gave the following day. And the liberals are trying to bash him for that. And they're actually seeming to be more mad about Trump supporting the church than they were mad about those looters and rioters attacking it. Yeah, it's really messed up. It doesn't make any sense. And we're going to go over this whole story today soon. So get ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got stories about the church, about how originally they denied those fires even happened, and then they also criticized Trump for going into his bunker. And this was Trump's big response to that the liberal mainstream media really duffed up and tried to bash him for it. We're going to go over all that soon. Great stories today, but first, let's take a quick moment to check out our loyal sponsor. Hey guys, I'm real excited to offer you this great deal coming from Virtual Shield. Their new VPN can be yours for as low as $250 per month, and it's important to consider getting a virtual private network now more than ever. Recently, a vote happened in the US Senate that agreed to give law enforcement agencies access to your web browsing history and data without needing to obtain a warrant first. That's why I think you need to consider getting yourself some more protection and security on the internet. So make sure you click that link or go to virtualshield.com/NoBS. That's right, virtualshield.com/NoBS, and you'll get yourself protected and secure, which will keep your family safe. Thanks for your time today, and now back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's get back to Trump and his law and order speech and his walk over to the church, which happened just yesterday. You see, what happened was about 2 days ago, the rioters attacked the church and set it on fire, and there were even reporters who tried to deny that happened. We had another video on our second channel about how Brian Stelter tried to deny those fires even existed, but he was swiftly proven wrong and even had to cower, delete his tweets, and apologize in shame. And now, then after that, after the fire started, the president, of course, had to take some defensive measures. The United States Secret Service, the police force that's hired to protect the president, they recommended he go into their safe and secure bunker that's underneath the White House. This is typical standard procedure, but of course, the mainstream media wanted to bash Trump for it and act like he was weak or something, act like he was hiding or something. But really, we know this is just standard, and also it's important to keep the president safe. These rioters were clearly heading towards the White House, and who knows how many people could have showed up or who could have busted in more people and busted in. I mean, I definitely don't think they'd make it all the way to the president, but him going into a safe and secure place is certainly not out of the question. And then the turn of this whole story is what gets really interesting because, like I said, the next day, the president gave a really strong speech about law and order, saying these protests need to stop, and he's willing to send in troops and do whatever it takes to bring peace back to this country. Great speech, by the way. We'll get to some clips from that soon, but first, let's breeze over what else happened, because after the speech, a very interesting turn of events happened when the president took a walk from the White House straight over to that church, which is across the street. Now, granted, of course, we can admit there was a little bit of a publicity thing here. He was trying to get some attention, show that he's still in charge, show that the leader of the free world can still go and walk to wherever he pleases, especially someplace that's right across the street from his base. And this historical church, of course, deserves this support, as do all churches, as do all Christians and God-fearing Americans. This is an American institution. So the president walked over there and everyone started to bash him again. The press started going over this stuff, saying that supposedly the police had to clear out a bunch of protesters that were still at the church in order for the president to walk there. And they tried to act like that was a bad thing. They even made up stories about tear gas being shot on them or something that I think proved to be false. It was actually just smoke or some kind of other distraction device, not the actual tear gas. But that's besides the point. The whole thing here is these liberals in the press, they got more mad at the president walking across the street to support the church than they did at the rioters and protesters who set it on fire. That's the most ridiculous part, and we'll get more to the end of that story too. But first, let's check out some of that speech I mentioned. The speech the following day was very moving, very enthusiastic. It showed a lot of support for our country, and that's why I think we should go over it and talk about that before we get to more of the walking stuff. Here the tweet says, "My fellow Americans, my first and highest duty as president is to defend our great country and the American people. I swore an oath to uphold the laws of our nation, and that is exactly what I will do." Great start already. Let's go ahead and jump to the video and see how it looks.
My fellow Americans, my first and highest duty as president is to defend our great country and the American people. I swore an oath to uphold the laws of our nation, and that is exactly what I will do. All Americans were rightly sickened and revolted by the brutal death of George Floyd.
Okay, there is a great start. Like I said, President showing solidarity, supporting our country, supporting our citizens, also talking about upholding the law, which is something a lot of liberals overlook these days. They're not very much for law and following the rules. We know that now. We know that they kind of feel entitled to do whatever they want, especially when they set up these scenarios where they call everyone racist and treat themselves like heroes, and they actually think that breaking the law is making them heroic, which is just a totally messed up premise. But then on top of that, the president is showing support and saying, yes, this was an awful murder. The person shouldn't have died. He's supporting the cause, and he's not saying anything negative about that. Like, no one is disagreeing on that. This brutal death did not need to happen. People should be punished. They are being punished. They've already arrested the guy. They've already gotten some proceedings going. All that stuff's happening. But the problem is, this isn't really as connected to the riots and the looting as people would claim. They pretend, oh, if we arrest these guys, it never would have happened. But I highly doubt that, because after the arrest happened, which was a few days ago, only took a few days for the process to take place, and the riots actually got worse since the arrest. So it doesn't really add up as far as the facts and the meaning and what's actually going on the ground. So that's just good to point out here, though, because the president's coming out against that, just like how we have, just like how everyone has. I haven't seen anyone defend that killing. So it really doesn't add up the way the craziness and how bad it's getting out there, because they act like people are defending it when we're not.
My administration is fully committed that for George and his family, justice will be served. He will not have died in vain. But we cannot allow the righteous cries and peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. The biggest victims of the rioting are peace-loving citizens in our poorest communities. And as their president, I will fight to keep them safe.
Okay, so someone finally sticking up for the average person, for us normal Americans out there. We're not all crazy, radical, impassioned, overly emotional, race baiting kind of stuff. The people in the streets are the minority, make no mistake, but they are getting bigger and bigger in numbers. They're getting support from big liberal powerhouses like the mainstream media, the news. Different people in social media are supporting them. Video game companies, Star Wars has come out in support. So they've got a lot of bigwig support, but President Trump is doing the right thing and supporting the average American, all of us, making sure we're all safe first, instead of trying to kind of kowtow and race hustle with all these kinds of radicals that are just out there for their own nefarious reasons.
I will fight to protect you. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. But in recent days, our nation has been gripped by professional anarchists, violent mobs, arsonists, looters, criminals, rioters, Antifa, and others.
Antifa, that's what he used to call it. And that's the group that's been declared a terrorist organization. I mean, there's really no denying it right now. I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot there. I think that should have happened sooner, but you have to allow things to happen as they can, as they plan out. And this is the point where it's a tipping point. It's really the point where I think a lot of people are going to realize, like I was saying, the average American is waking up here. They're seeing a lot of things happen that are scary. They're seeing how violent and radical the left can become in their groups like Antifa, like BLM, like these other race baiters, like how dangerous they are. So it's going to cause the reaction to be worse for them, because they think they're doing the right thing and getting themselves attention, but they've actually worsened and kind of poisoned their own well, because they've gone too far. They've shown how unsensical they are, how they don't care about the facts. They're not really motivated by what they say. They talk about this issue from Minneapolis, but clearly there's something else going on and there's other motivations, and they're just using that as an excuse.
A number of state and local governments have failed to take necessary action to safeguard their residents. Innocent people have been savagely beaten, like the young man in Dallas, Texas, who was left dying on the street, or the woman in upstate New York viciously attacked by dangerous thugs.
Okay, and I like that this is pointed out because, well, first of all, it's a bad situation. These people dying is terrible, so I'm not trying to get excited about that, but it is interesting and a strong point, because we've definitely gotten to the point of this story where the reaction is worse than the incident. There was an incident that started this in Minneapolis, and one person died, and that's terrible, but more people dying because of that is far, far worse. And then also consider the fact that all these other people that are dying are sometimes innocent. They're not doing anything. I think a lot of people get confused because they think that George Floyd was innocent, and he certainly didn't deserve to die, but he was being arrested for a crime. He was also resisting arrest. So there were definitely bad things he did that led to his bad situation. In these other cases, though, we're talking about innocent people in their homes, walking down the street, trying to run a store, maybe defend the store, maybe even an innocent rioter or someone else getting involved, not really doing anything wrong yet, but they get knocked up by one of these bad guys running around. I mean, this is worse than the crime. This is people taking it way too far. More people are dying, and it's just totally unnecessary.
Small business owners have seen their dreams utterly destroyed. New York's finest have been hit in the face with bricks. Brave nurses who have battled the virus are afraid to leave their homes.
Almost forgot the virus is going on too, and that's another point about social distancing, and something that I think is going to come up in another video I have to talk about, where, I mean, what happened to social distancing? What happened to everyone being scared of the virus? The left-wing media was talking about all of us need to stay home, we need to stay locked down, we need to avoid public places, and then all of a sudden now they're supporting these riots and saying demonstrations are good and these are peaceful protesters, and they're not worried about social distancing anymore. And on top of that, the other thing that he mentioned was the small business owners. People are suffering and losing their money and their jobs and their careers, and they're the real victims here. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not the racists. They're not killing anyone. They're just trying to live their lives, and this whole mess has kind of ruined it for the rest of us.
A police precinct has been overrun here in the nation's capital. The Lincoln Memorial and the World War II Memorial have been vandalized. One of our most historic churches was set ablaze. A federal officer in California, an African-American enforcement hero, was shot and killed.
God damn. When is this going to stop, man? I don't get why it's going on for so long. Like 1 or 2 days maybe, but why we're almost a week later and people are still dying, and it doesn't make sense at all, and it's really, really sad. So I'm glad the president's speaking up and listing out these details and giving us something to kind of hope for, and hopefully we can get back to our freedom, back to safe and secure country, get these rioters disenchanted, give them disincentives. They should not be allowed to get away with this. There should be more arrest and punishment. Let's take away their welfare, as some people have been suggesting. Let's the other thing to consider is, where are all these bricks coming from? Someone mentioned the bricks, and there's pallets of bricks showing up in the middle of these cities, and there's bags of of different stuff showing up to support them. People are bringing the rioters water. Like, why are we supporting this stuff? This is what's getting us going and going and going. And that's why bad things have been called out, like how the celebrities are trying to bail out these criminals. Like, yeah, let's bail out the people that caused all this chaos and get them back on the streets to do it again. Why would anyone think that's a good idea?
These are not acts of peaceful protest. These are acts of domestic terror. The destruction of innocent life and the spilling of innocent blood is an offense to humanity and a crime against God. America needs creation, not destruction. Cooperation, not contempt. Security, not anarchy.
And that's what I would say too. I would say we need some more security. We need some more strength and sorts of help. We need to bring people together instead of dividing and stealing and taking stuff apart. It's a country that we've built for so many years, so I don't see why anyone that loves our country would be tearing it apart like this. And it goes to show, like we were saying, the liberals hate America. They don't want this country to succeed or do well or to grow and prosper. That's why they're trying to destroy it. They're literally destroying our country. And that brings us to the next part of the story. Like I said, Trump eventually goes on this walk. And as you can see by this next tweet, we're going to get to the eventual walk. After that speech, the president gave a strong law and order speech and then decided to walk across the street to that church that was attacked and show his support and kind of show that things aren't as bad. We're going to bring it back. The president isn't hiding. He's just doing the proper protective measures when the time calls for, but we're going to get back to normal. And this proves it. Kristen Fisher tweets, "I almost can't believe what I'm seeing. POTUS just walked out the front door of the White House and into Lafayette Square, the epicenter of the DC protest, to visit historic St. John's Church, which was set on fire last night." So yes, president's visiting the church the next day. It's a very strong message, very powerful. So let's take a look at that. I don't think there's much sound here, just natural sound. Basically, the president's walking. It looks like a normal walk, too. I'm surprised. I don't know where the Secret Service is. I think they have this barrier kind of locked down really well already. I'm sure they planned this. The Secret Service will get there early and all that good stuff. But the point is still there. President walking across the street, showing American strength, showing that the leader of the free world can do and go as he pleases. We're not that bad right now. They're trying to destroy our country. They're trying to attack the president and make him look bad. But this is just not going to work. And the president is too strong. He's doing his job. And this is why we elected him. And this is why Trump's great, because all he cares about is helping. He's not here for other reasons. He's not trying to rip people off or make money or any of that shady stuff that Democrats are for. He's not trying to pass his own bills. He wants to do stuff for our fellow Americans. And that's why it's so messed up when you see the response. If you quickly look at these articles, it tries to make Trump look bad. It says poses for photos after church, after police force out protesters. It says protesters dispersed with tear gas. As I said, it was proven not to be tear gas already. It was maybe like regular smoke grenade or something, just to kind of spread people around. But the point is, the press is trying to make this look bad, except for maybe this. Going full law and order sounds like a good thing to me. I mean, it sounds like we need law and order right now. But the press is definitely going against it as hard as they can, trying to act like the president's doing something wrong or, taking too much power. They're standing behind the protesters, too. It's like these protesters just set that church on fire. How come you guys weren't mad about that? But, the president walks across the street to support us and show that things are getting better. Oh, yeah, that's evil. He got rid of those evil protesters, which are really rioters and criminals. So it doesn't make any sense, but it's a great story and a great sign that we're going to move towards a better place. We're going to stop this. Things are going to get better soon, but it is going on far too long. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Tell me what you think about the story, Trump, all these riots, and of course, tell me what you think about these new videos. Give me some ideas for the next videos below, and also hit that like button to help support this channel. Until next time, you guys have a great day.